I'd like to take just a couple of minutes here to discuss the name of our God and then divine titles. I notice that your textbooks don't cover this in much detail, so my hope is that this will be helpful to you. My interest here is to help elucidate what underlies our English translations of the terms God, capital G-O-D, little g-O-D, gods, capital L-O-R-D, Lord, and then Lord in all caps. Understanding the Hebrew, I believe, will help clarify the English. That, and when you read the translation in all caps, Lord, I want you to know that the Hebrew there says Yahweh. Let's have a look at a chart that I put together, and we'll walk through these terms just briefly. Before we do that, you're looking here at a screen that has the divine name on it in Hebrew. Hebrew reads right to left, so looking at the right side of your screen here, we have a Yod, He, Vav, He. The transliteration is underneath YHWH. This is the divine name, and we'll get there in just a minute. The chart here has the English translation on the left, and then the Hebrew underlying the English translations on the right. A capital G-O-D, God. Also included here is lowercase God and gods. The Hebrew underlying these English translations is Elohim and El, both of which are titles. Elohim is the plural form of El, and so translated gods. The term may also be used as a majestic plural, and so Elohim is frequently translated, depending on context, as capital G-O-D. El is the singular form, and so translated in English as lowercase g-o-d. You're probably quite familiar with the compound titles that utilize El, such as El Shaddai, El Elyon, El Ro'eh. These are descriptions of our deity. Who is he? He is El Shaddai. He is God Almighty. He is El Elyon. They are descriptions of our God. Lord in all caps. The Hebrew underlying this English translation is Yahweh. This is the very name of our deity. Our God reveals his name distinctly in Exodus 3 to Moses. Moses questions God, "Who are you? How is it that you are known?" And our deity responds with this famous expression, "I am who I am. I'm the one who is, Moses." And then he clarifies, "I am Yahweh." And your English translation, if you'll have a look at it, says, or translates here rather, in all caps, L-O-R-D. Know that behind this English translation is the very divine name, the name of our God that he reveals to Moses here. The four consonants, YHWH, or Yod He Vav He, that you saw in the previous slide, these consonants are referred to as the Tetragrammaton. Prior to the Masoretic text, from which our English translations are based, ancient Hebrew manuscripts were not vocalized, meaning there were no vowels that were written, simply consonants. So these older manuscripts have just the Yod He Vav He. The Masoretes came to these texts and vocalized them, thankfully, to preserve the oral traditions lying behind these narratives. Because our oldest manuscripts do not vocalize the Tetragrammaton, there is some question yet, even today, regarding how to pronounce the divine name. While most scholars pronounce the name Yahweh, it is not something that's agreed upon. In fact, a good friend of mine who's a Jewish scholar pronounces the Tetragrammaton as Yahweh. because there's some question about how to pronounce the name, today in Judaism, both Orthodox Jews and Reform Jews, as they read the Hebrew manuscripts, do not pronounce the divine name. On top of a question about how to read it, they also view the name as holy, too holy even, to pronounce. What if it was pronounced wrong? The name, a name, in the mind of our ancient Hebrew or ancient Israelite, embodied the very individual who's associated with it. So rather than reading the divine name as they read through their manuscripts, both, again, Orthodox and Reform Jews will gloss over and instead read Adonai. In fact, as I studied at a Jewish institute and I came across the divine name, I would read Adonai. Speaking of Adonai, capital L-O-R-D, our English translation, underlying this English term in Hebrew is in fact Adonai, and this is a title. My hope is that reviewing these English translations and what underlies them in Hebrew will help to provide some clarity for you as you're reading your English translations so that you know what is underneath it, what the Hebrew text is saying there. I also wanted to highlight these terms and translations because I had you read just a little bit about the documentary Hypothesis last week, whose largest proponent was Wellhausen, and the hypothesis is really a source theory, meaning the premise of these different sources underlying especially the Pentateuch is that each writer employed a distinct use of the divine, meaning every narrative that is read, for instance, that employs the divine name is attributed to one author, where another author perhaps always employed the usage Elohim, referring to our deity. Scholarship continues to pursue source theory and has provided conduit for critical interpretation and explanation, especially regarding our composite text that we have today. Finally, one last term that I'd like to discuss with you is Jehovah. Jehovah is a term not found in the Hebrew Bible itself, and in fact is a misreading, a combination of the Tetragrammaton, YHWH or Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, and the vowels of Adonai. Well, let's see if I can demonstrate this to you. Here you see the term Jehovah, and I've capitalized the consonants J, H, V, and H. Well, now you can see where I'm going, I think. Jehovah is in fact a German term. If you know your German at all, you'll know, well, for example, the term for yes in German is Ja. It's spelled J-A, but its pronunciation is with a Y or a Y sound, written with a J, but the sound is a Y. So what we have here in this J-Y scenario is German writing with an English pronunciation laid on top of it. As you move to the distinction between V and W, consider a scholar of the documentary Hypothesis, Wellhausen. Wellhausen's name is written with a W, his last name, but pronounced with a V. So Jehovah's consonants are based, in fact, on the Tetragrammaton, YHWH. Now the vowels themselves come from the vowels of Adonai. Adonai's first vowel has the ability to make an either A or E sound, and you can see here in Jehovah that the E was adopted and placed in between. The O of Adonai has moved into Jehovah, and then you can see the A as well has dropped down. So Jehovah, again, is not a term that's found in the Hebrew Bible, though used quite frequently in our vernacular, it seems, is in fact a misreading of Yahweh, the Tetragrammaton, and then the vocalization of Adonai.